Welcome to the MLB Slate Breakdown. I'm Jason Gilbo. With me is Brent Hyde. Taking a look at tonight's 8-game MLB slate on FanDuel and DraftKings. Pretty decent slate here tonight. A lot of good pitching options on the hill.
Yeah, there are a boatload of pitchers. Like, I think you could make a case, with exception to like one or two, for every single pitcher on this slate tonight. So that's going to make things interesting and a lot of fun to be had, I think, on this slate.
Um, First one here, you got Pittsburgh and Washington. Ivan Nova taking on Steven Strasburg. Strasburg, obviously a big home favorite here. Uh, hasn't been in a little bit rough form, I think, coming off that last start. I think he can obviously regain form here against this Pittsburgh team. I don't know if he's my favorite ace on the hill, but I do like him here.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of an interesting start to the season for Strasburg. I mean, he's allowed 7 homers across his 6 starts this season. 2 games he has 2 homers, 3 games with 1 homer, and only 1 game where he didn't allow a homer. 3 or more earned runs in no 3 games with 4 or more earned runs. It's not exactly been a typical Strasburg start to the season. That being said, I put them in the cheat sheets, and I talked about how the Pirates, 27.7% of the time, they're striking out on the road this season against right-handed pitching. He's got one of the nastiest changeups in the majors, and that is a pitch that the Pirates are swinging at a decent amount this season. I do think in cash games he's probably one of your better bets as like an SP1, like on FanDuel, or as your starting pitcher, one of your starting pitchers on DraftKings. So I like him in the spots. Still a little bit of concern for a home run or two, but I think he can get around that.
Yeah, I do too. Like you said, like the 195 ISO allowed to lefties is, the concerning part. But outside of that, I mean, still's been, decent amount of strikeouts, 27% strikeout rate this year. Doesn't walk a lot of guys, reasonable, ground ball rates. Also in a good chance for a win, which isn't necessarily the case for some of the other aces.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, especially again on FanDuel if you're playing over there where the win is significantly more valuable than it is on DraftKings. He's probably your best bet.
Any Pittsburgh bats you're willing to take here?
Now,
Nah. Don't mind some Washington bats here against Nova. One of the, I guess, weaker arms on the slate, you could say, just because there aren't a lot of weak arms. But I definitely don't mind Washington. I expect them to be somewhat chalky here tonight, especially if those value bats get in that lineup again.
yeah, after they erupted for 12 runs last night, they could end up being a little bit chalky. I don't know that they will, because I think there's a couple stacks that we're going to talk about that will be a little bit more popular, and pricing has adjusted a little bit for some of these guys. Like if you're looking on FanDuel, like you're going to get the Matt Adams and the Wilmer Defoes that are going to be pretty chalky, I think, just because price considered they're some of the best bats on the slate. And I love both those guys in the spot. I mean, Matt Adams, excellent against right-handed pitching. Ivan Nova has really, really struggled against lefties. 347 WOBA allowed dating back to last season, along with 1.57 homers per nine. He profiles extremely well against Nova's two-seam fastball. So I love Matt Adams, especially on FanDuel. And on DraftKings, he has that multi-position eligibility that makes him a solid play. I love Wilmer Defoe, especially if he's going to bat in that 9 hole and they're going to bat Bryce Harper leadoff. That gives him a little bit of security. I do like him there. And of course, Bryce Harper, obviously still one of the best hitters in baseball. And I don't think walks were really that much of an issue last night for him. So, and it was kind of funny. They actually came out and said, like, prior to the game, that they didn't plan on intentionally walking him in his first at bat, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I love Bryce Harper, and you pointed out Matt Wieters has some decent BVP against Ivan Nova. I actually liked Wieters before knowing that, just because he profiles extremely well against Nova's pitch mix.
And we see Wieters, I mean, a decent ISO against righties, early on so far this year, 207. He's got expected well about 408 off righties. Wieters, like if you need a cheap catching option, he's only 3,200 over on DraftKings. Probably will be hitting 6th or 7th. I definitely don't mind him here at the price.
Yeah, and like over on FanDuel, he's 2,400. So like you can plug him in your catcher first base spot or your util spot as a value option to get some of the higher price bats.
Yeah, I can't tell you. I mean, going catcher at the catcher first base spot, like you're getting these guys like 5% ownership, if that. And some of these catchers this year are definitely some big upside.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, catcher's a spot, especially like on FanDuel now, like they tend to go overlooked a little bit outside of like Gary Sanchez.
Yeah, so Moving on here, Milwaukee and Cincinnati. Wade Miley making his 2018 debut against Luis Castillo. Luis Castillo is only fine start of the year has come against Milwaukee. That was in Milwaukee. I'm still worried about him, man. I think something's up. The lefties still scare me here. He's super cheap. I think he's worth the dart throw in terms of GPPs, but I'm not thrilled about it.
Yeah, I basically noted him in the cheat sheet just for the fact that his lone good performance this season did come against the Brewers, and there is some strikeout potential there, especially if there's not a bunch of lefties in that lineup. Like we already know, Thames is on the DL. If like for some reason Yelich or Shaw isn't in the lineup, like I don't know why they wouldn't be, but like if they're not, then that's going to help Castillo a little bit in the spot. So if a lineup comes out and there's like just one lefty, like I think you can consider using him because I think that's what happens. I think that's what happened in that one performance that he actually had a good game. Like there's only like one lefty in that lineup.
I think Yelich was on the DL at the time when he faced him. Probably VR wasn't even lined because if it even matters right now. But I do like the lefties. Like it is Yelich and Shaw for me. I don't have a ton of interest in the righties. Shaw continues to kind of be a plug and play for me on DraftKings at his price tag. He just kind of hovers around like that 4K mark. He's 4.2 today. I find that way too cheap for a guy who has a 284 ISO against righties this year, and then dating back to last year, 254 ISO, and especially in this ballpark.
He's just such a good all around hitter. Like he has a good combination of power and on base potential. So he's a guy that I absolutely love in all formats every single night. I do really like Yelich in this spot as well. Yelich profiles extremely well against Castillo's two-seam fastball. He posted almost 400 xWOB against the pitch last season, so it is a good spot for him. Unfortunately, there aren't really any other lefties except for maybe like Eric Sogard that may get in the lineup. You mentioned Jonathan VR, like he doesn't really matter because he's not doing anything this season. Congratulations for everyone that uses him tonight. He's got a homer now. That'd be about it.
Yeah. Moving on to the Cincinnati side, you and I were talking like, we think Cincinnati is going to be a team that people do stack. Kind of depends on how their lineup shakes up because it could be somewhat decent of a stack if like you get kind of like Duvall, Votto, Suarez, and like maybe even a Mesoraco in there to kind of round it out. Like I don't mind it. Miley is tilting to stack against at times because every now and then he'll go and just pitch like 6 innings and have like 8 strikeouts against you. And there still are a decent amount of strikeout bats in this lineup, but like I do like Eugenio Suarez and like Adam Duvall here for some power upside.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to ruin my night more, the tornadoes that are supposed to hit my area tonight or stacking against Wade Miley. Like one of those two things is probably going to ruin my night. So one of them is somewhat avoidable for me. Like I don't have to stack against Wade Miley. So that might be what happens. That being said, I think he's going to be a popular stack target, and it's going to be the right-handed bats against him because he is allowing 1.67 homers per 9, a 374 WOBA, a lot of walks to righties. I mean, he's walking hitters like crazy anyways, but he also does have some strikeout stuff. Like in his last rehab start, 11 strikeouts in 6 innings. So we've seen Wade Miley with some strikeout stuff before, but I think I'm using, you mentioned Suarez, good spot for him. Duvall would be like a one-off bat that I do kind of want to get some exposure to just because he posted like a 400 ISO against Miley's two-seam fastball last season. And then Mesoraco, a really cheap catcher option that I think you can consider. And obviously, Joey Votto is Joey Votto, and he's good at hitting baseballs.
Yeah, and he's got a couple homers off Miley as well.
Yeah.
Then again, a lot of people do.
Yeah, and one quick note, I did have a note about Castillo. It's the coaching staff is talking about how his arm angle is messing with his fastball. It's leaving his fastball flat in the zone rather than like having the movement that he usually does, and that's why people are hitting it. And they were wanting to try to skip his start, but now they're just going to try to make adjustments in between starts.
Maybe he should get with Trevor Bauer and the Astros guys and maybe kind of all talk this out.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of pine tar or bubble gum or something like that to get a little extra spin on the ball.
Yeah. Moving on here, Philly and Miami next. Aaron Nola taking Jose Urena. Aaron Nola, I don't mind him here. Price tag a little bit higher than I like. I think the upside's kind of a bit capped against this Marlins team. we've said this, numerous times, despite being top 5 in terms of strikeout rate against righties, it doesn't quite seem that way. Really like what Anderson and Brinson are the only kind of strikeout guys from the right side here.
Yeah, and that's really it. Like, I don't have a lot of interest in Nola here. That being said, like on SP2 sites where you need, a guy, like especially in cash games, a safer floor guy, I think that might end up being Nola. I don't like taking pitchers against Miami because a lot of times it doesn't work out. Like, unless your name is Zach Eflin and you can like no hit him through like 6 innings or some BS like that. He's like I said, he has a fairly safe floor in this spot. He might notch a few extra strikeouts. I don't necessarily hate him in cash. I'm going to be looking elsewhere in tournaments because I think he's going to be a popular option tonight.
I think you and I are just kind of on the Paxton train tonight, and that kind of takes some of the steam out of Nola.
Yeah, it comes down to like I can save 1,900 on DraftKings and drop down to Paxton, and I know on FanDuel it's not I don't think it's a huge difference. It's only $100, so like I would still rather have Paxton there, but like on DraftKings, I'll take Paxton all day for a massive savings.
Yeah, and even Godley too is 7,600.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't have any real interest here. I think Bohr's expected to be back in the lineup, although I saw that yesterday and he did come in and pinch hit. But Bohr always an interesting one-off just because Nola does struggle a little bit with lefties, but. Still, for the most part, I hate targeting ground ball guys, and especially a guy like Nola who does induce a lot of weak contact.
Yeah, like if I wanted to pick on him, I would use some of the guys like Starlin Castro, Justin Bohr, Real Muto as guys to look at. Like they made it in the cheat sheets as like a value stack if you wanted to like pick a couple pieces out of that lineup to use. I don't necessarily hate it because Nola does at times struggle. So you can roll them out as value guys, but I'm not terribly intrigued here.
No. Philly side of things with Urena. Urena's not a horrible arm, but he's not great. I do like the lefties here. Obviously, Philly, on the road kind of sucks. Like, I'm not expecting a huge outing, but I do like some of the lefties. I think they come in a little bit overlooked here just because they've busted the last few games.
Yeah, like you said, he does struggle against lefties. 326 will allow 30, almost 37% hard contact. Does make Carlos Santana an interesting option. Again, as we've been saying since basically the second day of the baseball season, Carlos Santana has been the unluckiest hitter in baseball. It's going to turn around at some point, so like you can keep on plugging him in your lineups and pray for the day that it finally happens. Did have a 205 ISO dating back to last season against right-handed pitching, so you can roll him out. I don't hate Cesar Hernandez in cash games, just a safe option there. Odubel, Nick Williams, guys like that, feel free to roll them out if you really want to. This game doesn't have a lot of appeal from a hitter standpoint for me.
Oh, I agree. They're more kind of one-offs here than anything, but you and I were talking a little bit before, like if you are dying to stack tonight, like it's kind of limited. I don't hate the Phillies as a stack to be contrarian if you're kind of rolling out multiple lines, but yeah, like Santana, those guys like Williams could be a nice deep value if he finds a lineup, but he never seems to do when I want to play him.
Yeah, and then obviously, Rhys Hoskins still good at hitting baseballs. So like you could round out your stack with that, and then he could have the potential to homer off of just about anyone.
Yeah, it's not like Urena's dominant against righties anyway. 307 well, but it's not bad, but it's not great either. It's still 161 ISO.
Yeah.
So Atlanta and New York, you got Jacob deGrom taking on Sean Newcomb. We talked about Newcomb before he was pushed back a day. I still don't mind him here as like an SP2. He's definitely just going to be a GPP guy though, just because I do kind of prefer like, Godley and Paxton a little bit more in cash games.
Yeah, I completely agree there. He's just a value. He's a value SP2 or something like that if you need him against a Mets team that does strike out a lot. Same thing we said yesterday. Walks are going to continue. Walks have been an issue for him. If he can reel those in, then he can be fine. And if you want to use a couple bats against him, you're looking at like Ahmed Rosario, Asdrubal Cabrera, Wilmer Flores, those guys.
Yeah. So you got deGrom here tonight. I know you and I are not fans of targeting Atlanta. I don't mind him. If you want to roll deGrom, it's fine. Obviously, he had a tremendous start against them. A few starts ago, he had 10 strikeouts in Atlanta. He's back at home in Citi Field. I don't mind him. I just don't see myself paying up for him tonight.
I don't see myself paying up for him, but again, on sites, it's basically him and Strasburg that I feel pretty comfortable with. Like I know the Braves did come out and jump on Thor early last night with what put up 3 runs in the first inning, but I don't that's not a typical outing from the Braves against some of these Mets guys. And DeGrom is a really dominant pitcher. The biggest concern I have, and especially with using him on FanDuel, is that Mets bullpen. Like they were fine last night, but like DeGrom, despite being completely freaking dominant in almost every single start except for against the Marlins, only has 3 wins because that Mets bullpen is terrible and they continue to blow wins for him. So that's a risk you're taking on FanDuel where the win is so incredibly valuable.
Yeah. I don't really have any interest as far as like Braves bats. If they were priced down, maybe I'd take a shot on like Albies here, but he's not.
Yeah, if they were a little bit cheaper, I would. Now, that being said, contrarian, that would definitely be a very contrarian like tournament stack for you.
Yeah, like God, Albies, like when he matches sliders and profiles pretty well against DeGrom, I would not be surprised to see him do well.
No, like there are a couple cheap bats like Dansby Swanson down towards the bottom of that lineup is pretty cheap. Suzuki's not a terribly priced catcher option. You could roll a couple of those guys out if you wanted to. And I mean, Acuna is only 4K.
Yeah. New York and Houston, Dallas Keuchel, Luis Severino, both these guys priced down because of the matchups. Severino, you and I, way too cheap here on DraftKings. A guy that should just be 10K no matter who he's facing.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a guy 2 starts ago was 11-6. He comes out and his price drops a little bit because he's going against Angels. Still pitches a good outing. I mean, he went 7 innings, 8 strikeouts. He gave up 3 earned runs. They dropped his price down to 9,200 on DraftKings because he's facing an Astros team that is, for the majority of the season, has been pretty darn bad. And by that I mean to their standards, they've been bad, not a bad team, just in their own standards. So he has a ton of strikeout potential in the spots. There's a lot of bats in that lineup that swing at sliders a lot. And he's got a really filthy slider.
Yeah, there's not a lot of guys. This projected line, the highest guy, I think, dating back to 2016 on sliders is Altuve at 339. I like Severino here a lot. Like the upside, as you mentioned, that slider's filthy. Not a lot of these Houston bats make contact well with sliders. And just overall, they're not making a ton of strong contact this year. I mean, I think it's possible also that we're starting to see some regression for some of the guys that did kind of overperform a little bit last year as well.
That very well could be the case. Like it could just be like they just outperformed what they normally were, and now we're seeing the normal Astros, and maybe that changes. But like this is a strategy since basically like the first week of MLB like DFS, taking pitchers against the Astros has worked out a whole hell of a lot, and they get overlooked a lot because people are still just plugging in Astros bats every single night because they think they're the same team they were last year.
Yeah. I don't like any Houston bats here. Like, I don't feel the need. They're priced down, I guess, a little bit, but I don't feel the need to go here.
Maybe a Marwin or Altuve. That'd be about it. I don't necessarily hate, those guys, and Correa a little bit of power against like the really high velocity forcing fastballs that Severino throws, but I'm not dying to get exposure to these guys.
No, not either. Keuchel here against the Yankees. Any interest in Keuchel?
GPP consideration if you're building a bunch of lineups, sure. Just like as a price play, especially on DraftKings at like 7K. I'm not going there on FanDuel at 8,500. But no, I think I would rather take some of these bats against him.
Yeah, I would too. I know Keuchel does have some good history against the Yankees. I mean, his current roster is 16 for 78 with a 29% strikeout rate, but Keuchel just hasn't been great this year. Kind of an uncharacteristic 188 ISO allowed to right-handed bats. Still not allowing a ton of hard contact and a lot of ground balls, but like you said, I still don't mind taking some shots on the big power bats here. But even guys, Hicks is interesting. I don't mind, Gary Sanchez here in the spot as well.
Yeah, hopefully, he hits another homer and bat flips and pisses off all the Astros fans that are crying because he bat flipped during a freaking regular season game that wasn't in, late in the season.
Did you see that video of whoever was ranting about it? It looked like they were just laying in bed, like filming like their iPad, like talking about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I put on there because someone commented about how bad he was at camera, and I was like, well, it's really hard to hold a camera steady whenever you're crying about a bat flip in freaking May. Um, yeah, these guys, the Yankees, I don't know that we really need to talk too much about them especially against lefties. I mean, Stanton, video game numbers against left-handed pitching. Judge, video game numbers against left-handed pitching. Sanchez, always a great catcher option. I do like him a little bit more than the others in the spot. And then Aaron Hicks is a great, like, cheaper way to get exposure here.
Tyler Austin's due back from suspension. 445 WOBA, 324 ISO against lefties in a limited sample size dating back to last year.
Yeah, he was actually back last night. So he was in the lineup last night. And he's not really a value bet, especially on DraftKings at 4,100.
He's a contrarian guy, though.
Yeah, he is a little bit of a value on FanDuel at 33, though.
Yeah. So, LA and Arizona, Zach Godley taking on Hyun-Jin Ryu. You got a modern day, Babe Ruth here. AJ Pollock, 4 homers in his last 2 games.
Yeah, he's been a little bit good over his last few games, just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't mind some of these bats. I know Ryu's been pretty solid against right-handed pitching, but Goldschmidt has some really solid numbers off Ryu and a pretty decent sample size as well. But like Pollock, Goldschmidt, Ahmed, I think these guys are interesting here. And if Devin Marrero cracks the lineup, I do have some interest, despite Ryu being actually pretty solid.
Yeah, like his only really bad outing this season was his first outing of the season against Arizona at Chase Field. I think that was one of the games where everyone started to joke about the Rumador. I actually like some Arizona bats in here as a contrarian stack. Like, they actually profile extremely well against Ryu. And I went back and dug into kind of the games or the pitches that were really problematic for him in that first start. And like his four-seam fastball was kind of the biggest issue. That's where most of the balls got actually put in play against him, and that's a pitch that Pollock actually hits extremely well. So I like Pollock. I like Goldschmidt here. Anybody that really gets in this lineup, I think, is valuable. Owings in a good spot, 281 or 250 ISO against four-seam fastballs. Ketel Marte, really, really solid spot for him. 340 on base percentage against lefties dating back to last season, 429 ISO against Ryu's four-seam fastball, and then Ahmed and Marrero as cheaper options as well.
And I think the Diamondbacks are actually priced more down than what they were last night against Kershaw.
It is except for Pollock.
Yeah, Pollock's 5K, but Goldschmidt against lefty 4.5. You got Ahmed 3.3. Marte 3.1, Devin Marrero 2.7, Owings 3K. Like, there's a lot of value bats. I know Vegas isn't loving it, but I definitely do like some of these guys.
Yeah, I do too. It's weird. Like Goldschmidt, if you look at his DraftKings game log, like it doesn't have a price listed for his game last night. I don't know what's going on there.
That's weird. Maybe they haven't updated.
Yeah, it's DraftKings being.
They've done that a couple times. I think it has something to do with the like single game slates or pick 'em or some shit like that.
Yeah, they just need to stop with that.
Yeah. Zach Godley on the other side, he is priced down. I do like some Godley here tonight. Definitely an SP2 guy for me. Obviously Corey Seager wasn't doing much this year, and we kind of probably know why now. But that's still like it is a big bat out of this lineup. Obviously, you do have guys like Peterson, Grandal, Bellinger, Campos, and Power. But I really like Godley here. Like, he's really solid against lefties. The walks are the biggest concern, but that ground ball rate, he doesn't allow a ton of power either.
Yeah, he's a guy I do really, really like in the spot. He does have a decent amount of strikeout upside going against this Dodgers team that just has not really been that good recently. Like, I know Bellinger, a two RBI homer last night, and then you had like Muncy, hit one runner in, but like this team is just bleh. recently and for the majority of the season. So I think Godley is interesting, and I do like him as an SP2. And like on FanDuel, if you're fading Paxton, like he's kind of in that same price range. Like I don't hate him as an SP1 on FanDuel.
I mean, there is some upside here. Got it. If he's going to continue to throw that curveball 40% of the time, like there's not a lot of guys. Bellinger's the only one that stands out, but he's just kind of more of a. If he gets, if he gets contact of it, that's it. Like 394 with 314 ISO, but everyone else, there's projected lineup. No one has over a 300 WOBA against his curveball.
Yeah, and like it was his sinker that really got him in trouble the last time these teams faced off. I think they put up almost 90-mile-an-hour average exit velocity off of his sinker in that first outing where he kind of struggled. But like, it wasn't a real typical outing for him. So like, I do like him in the spot for sure.
Yeah, and he put up 20 DK points the first time these two teams met that first week. So.
Yeah, it was just that at Dodgers game where he really struggled.
Yeah. It's Bellinger's probably the one off that I'm looking at here. He's only 4,200 on DK, always has that power, that potential to double dong. The problem is it's just Golly is really solid. I mean, this year 75% ground ball rate against lefties.
Maybe Grandal. He's probably like, just because I like having a power option at catcher most nights, and so Grandal is one of those guys.
You don't like Chase Utley?
No, I'm gonna pass on Chase Utley tonight.
I'm getting a hard time because you've been mentioning to me the last few pods.
Yeah, he did. I think that one night I mentioned him was just because he profiled really well against the pitcher. But yeah, I'm not going there here.
Baltimore and Angels. This is probably going to be a tilting series, like all series long.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about it after Alex Cobb comes out and turns into Clayton Kershaw against the Angels last night. Very sad.
No. Problem is here is like one. Looking at Andrew Heaney, I feel like he could do well here. I don't like him, but I feel like he could do well here.
He has strikeout upside against this Orioles team. They are striking out a decent amount. Heaney dating back last season, almost 30% strikeout rate. He is very, very risky though. Like this Orioles team does have a decent amount of power against lefties. They are still striking out like 26% of the time. That being said, like I think I do actually like a Baltimore stack here. And I know that's going to end up really not being good by the end of the night because Baltimore is always disappointing whenever they're in a good spot. But like Manny Machado is just a lock against a lefty for me. Like if there's a lefty, if he's facing a lefty, like he's in my lineup. I don't care who the lefty is at this point.
No, I don't either. 407 ISO against lefties this year. You mentioned like there is potential. Like Trey Mancini, obviously solid against lefties. Mark Trumbo was activated from the DL. You got, obviously Danny Valencia who will probably get in there. They'll probably toss a couple other guys like Craig Gentry and things like that into this lineup. Like there are options. If you want to get exposure, I don't hate it. I think they're all great GPP plays.
For sure. And like we're still talking about a very small sample size for Heaney, 36 innings dating back through last season, but 4.6 homers per 9 allowed to righties, almost 51% hard contact to righties, 435 WOBA allowed. Like again, Manny Machado, excellent. Valencia, you mentioned. Mancini, Adam Jones, Joey Rickard is a really cheap bat that actually profiles extremely well in the spots. He crushed sinkers last year. I like him as a value bet, and Caleb Joseph is going to be the catcher in tonight's game because Chance Sisco got clotheslined by Pedro Alvarez late in that game, and then he had to leave the game. So he should not be in the lineup, so it should get Caleb Joseph in there, and he would be a decent value catcher here.
If there's one guy you don't want to get clotheslined, it's probably Pedro Alvarez.
I do call him El Toro for a reason.
Bundy and the Angels here. Bundy obviously is coming off a horrible start against the Rays where it was a small slate and he was fairly chalky. 7 earned 2 homers. Wasn't expecting that. Has been solid throughout the prior starts against some pretty good competition too. I'm not using him tonight, but I'm not picking on him either.
I don't want to pick on him, and I want to use him after seeing how bad the Angels have been recently. Like they have not been a good baseball team of late. Like they're striking out 25% of the time over the past 14 days. Bundy, we know, has a lot of strikeout potential. I mean, he's 44 strikeouts across 36 innings. There's risk here with him, especially if like the Bundy that we saw against the Rays comes out, but there's also a lot of like there's a lot of upside in here. And I noted in the cheat sheets, like he's generating like a 41% swing strike rate with his slider to right-handed hitters this season. That's insane.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, if I wanted to pick on Bundy, it'd probably be with the lefties, but there's just not going to be lefties that I want to target here.
Cole Calhoun.
Yeah. Like, it's just like, he's probably going to be hitting 8th or 9th here. And it's just like, there's other, like I would like Calhoun, but he's 2.9. If Ohtani was cheaper and gets alive, like I'd be having some interest with Ohtani.
Yeah, it'd be Ohtani, Calhoun, but like in that 2.9 price range, there's a couple guys that we've already mentioned, I think, that are better options, and one guy that we're going to mention in this next game that I think is a significantly better option.
Yeah, and given the fact that I'm not completely paying for pitching, like I don't need a 2.9 guy.
No, you probably don't.
So, but yeah, next game here, Oakland and Seattle. You got Anderson taking on Paxton. I really, really like Paxton here. It's not that the fact that the A's are a bad team. I just love the upside here for Paxton. I think he's way too cheap. I think he's the guy. He's probably the guy that I had the most exposure to as far as pitching so far.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like his price does not make sense to me at all. Like this dude was almost 10K against Texas, has a bout outing, comes out and like blanks the Indians, and now is 8K. Like it does not make any sense to me at all. Like this is just such a great spot for him, and like he should be like one of the chalkiest pitchers on the slate, and I'm completely okay with that. A's, they do have a decent amount of power, but they are still striking about 22% of the time against left-handers, and we know this is a dude that can rack up double-digit strikeouts. It's just a really good spot for him. Like I don't really know what else there is to say.
Yeah, I think the only concern here, but I'm not concerned, is the only blip on his stats so far is the 10.6% walk rate this year. But against lefties this year, Oakland only walking 6.2% of the time. Their hard contact is very solid. Like I said, this is not a bad team. This is not a bad lineup. But there's just so much strikeouts here. Paxton at home against right-handed bats, like just absolutely solid. To the point where I'm not really even considering any A's here against him.
If you were, it would be like Smolinski. I know it's a lefty on lefty, but Olsen profiles pretty well in this spot, and maybe Crush, but that's about it.
Yeah. Other side of things here, with the lefty on the hill, I don't mind some of the right-handed bats here for Seattle. You and I are talking like you can't exactly stack them up, even though you'd want to.
I can. I mean, I can do whatever I want. It's my lineup.
Well, I don't find myself stacking them. I like the right-handed one-offs.
There's a few bats in here I do really like. Nelson Cruz, obviously. He's good at baseballs. 212 ISO against lefties dating back to last season. Really, which is a pitch that Brad Anderson kind of throws a decent amount. I really like him here. Ryan Healy, one of my favorite options here at first base. He's been outstanding since coming back up. 203 ISO against lefties dating back to last season. 551 xWOB against four-seam fastballs, which is something that Anderson is also throwing. It's basically like sinker and four-seamers for him. I love Zunino. He mashed sinkers as well. Love Segura here. Guillermo Heredia is back because they had to send a couple guys down or send a couple guys on the DL. There's your value bet. 600 ISO against sliders last season.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and I don't even hate, I know Robinson Cano is not a very good hitter against lefties, but Brett Anderson has really struggled against lefties. D. Gordon as well, a ton of upside in the spot too.
So you're going to leave me one guy here, and I'm happy you did. Kyle Seager, I have some interest in here. You mentioned Anderson struggled against lefties. Seager not bad against lefties. 177 ISO against left-handers dating back to last year. 320 WOBA. It's not great, but mashes sinkers. 401 WOBA dating back to 2016. 250 ISO. 92% contact rate.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it's really hard for me to decide between Seager and Shaw. I think I'm probably going Shaw because I'm going to have like 4 other Mariners in my lineup. But yeah. Oh, and don't forget about Ichiro. Like, I mean, there is the narrative. This is going to be like his last stretch of games before he retires. So, and currently he does have the highest WRC plus against lefties on the Mariners squad.
That's wild. I forgot I was just about to say something, but I lost it. I don't know.
433 on base percentage dating back to last season and 60 at bats against lefties for Ichiro.
Ichiro's the GOAT.
And he's 2,200.
Yeah. Damn, I forgot what I was going to say. I had something and I lost it. Shit, it's gone. It's gone. It's never going to remember. Home run calls for tonight. Who do you got?
Manny Machado and Ryan Healy.
Yeah. I'm going to go Travis Shaw. Contrarian. I'm going to go... I'm going to go Mike Zunino.
I dig it.
Oh, here we go. FanDuel. I really like using 2 third basemen on FanDuel tonight. Because you mentioned Shaw. I really do like Suarez as well. So there are a handful of third baseman options. I think I'd rather go that route.
Yeah, that's one way you can do it.
So that's what I wanted to say. That's it. With 4 games tomorrow, we are off. We'll be back on Friday, and good luck tonight.
I might not be back. I might blow away in a tornado.
Don't say that. Well,
we'll see what happens.
If I'm solo and doing like 8 things for the site, you know what happened to friends.
I probably got hit by a tornado.
Can I take over your Twitter account?
No, that'll be immortalized. That'll be immortalized in the Hall of Fame for puns and terrible tweets.
You want them projected like on your tombstone?
Yes, please.
I'll get that set up. So
thanks.
That's it. I'll be back Friday. Good luck.
Good luck tonight.